Welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast with your host Bruce Outridge, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Oh my gosh, what is going on in our industry? Whoa! Well, we're going to find out about it because Mr. Mike McCarron is going to bring us up to date on some of the stuff going on. And as you guys know, Ace McCarron, he is all about what's going on in the industry and what we need to do to fix it. Not sure we can, but we're going to certainly try. Hey, before we get to that, though, let me tell you a little bit about Rosedale Transport. They're one of our great presenters. They've got a long-term role. They've been around for over 50 years. They got terminals all across North America. And if you're looking to work for a stable fleet that cares about safety, cares about you, cares about how things work in the industry, then Rosedale Transport is where you should go. Go to rosedalegroup.com and just look under the careers tab and you can find out all the stuff going on there for sure. All right. So what's going on with Mike McCarron? Well, we had we caught up with Mike over at the PTTAC conference in Calgary recently. He did a presentation on where the industry is, updates. If you've ever seen or heard of him, he's always very entertaining. And he was bringing us up to date on some of the things. He was talking about Driver Inc. and road safety and all of that. As you know, Mike has been around for a long time. He used to own MSM Transport, so he's been in this industry his whole life. He's worked for a number of companies before that. He's now a columnist with today's Trucking and Truck News. He's a president of Left Lane Associates, and he's a partner in a number of other ventures as well. Big hockey guy. He's owned hockey teams in the past, always been involved with hockey, so he was very passionate about the Humboldt thing. And he was there, and it's always fun having Mike around. It's never a dull moment, and you know, he's used to going off the cuff. So we'll see how this one goes. But here's some of the presentation. I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but he was talking about the industry in general and some of the things that we need to work on. So here's the presentation with Mr. Mike McCarron, better known as Ace, up in Calgary at PTTAC for sure. Before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit about Bison Transport. They got terminals all around too, and they are looking for people out of Calgary, Winnipeg, and Mississauga. If you have some experience and you're interested in working for a company that's got one of the best safety records and one of the best cultures in the industry, then you certainly want to look at Bison Transport. You can go to bisondriving.com to find out all about them. All right, let's get on to that presentation from Mike McCarron at PTTAC 2025.
And one thing I did realize is that you are in one really tough business. I had no idea. I've done some work for the people in Ontario before. This is one tough business, and you have a lot of moving parts that are very hard to control. Very hard to control. I was really surprised at the complexity. I was surprised at the complications. And I really commend you for putting up a fight, because I really believe that your industry is in the fight of their life right now. I do believe if you don't change in 10 years, probably the legit operators like yourself will not be around. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about trucking today. I think you need to understand where you're at to know where you're going. Talk about the future of your industry, and talk about what I think, frankly, is the only solution to fix this chaos that Scott talked about today, that really, frankly, Scott, sums up everything I have to say in an awful, awful setting. So, Josh, I think Josh is going to work. Oh, there you're right there. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Why don't we just skip over to Canadian trucking today? Let's talk about trucking today. The root cause of all our problems is Driver Inc. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I sold my business in 2012 before Driver Inc. really hit the forefront. And I can't believe how much complexity it's added to the trucking business. some rallies. Driver Inc. is here to stay. They're not going anywhere. I think most people have known that, other than maybe the CTA. Most people in the industry already know that. Driver Inc. is simply an acronym for the gig economy. It's a gig economy. It's nothing more than that. It's a worldwide phenomenon, of which I believe 30% of Canadians are now working in. So it's not going anywhere. So accept the fact. Driver Inc. redefined. I think there's a problem with the way people perceive it. Driver Inc., the problem is not, do I have a problem with the fact they don't pay their taxes? Absolutely. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that I get audited over buying a steak for myself at the local restaurant, and there's billions in dollars in taxes not being paid. I can't change that. It's not going to get changed. That's our gross domestic product is immigration. That's not changing. The problem with Driver Inc. is the thing Scott talked about, the poor training, the trucking underbelly, the mistreatment of employees, desperate people, the breaking of the rules. That's the problem. And I think that people need to understand the tax thing is not going away. What we have to worry about is all the other noise being caused by these carriers. So that's my bone. I don't like the fact they don't pay taxes drives me nuts, but it's the other stuff that really worries me. It worries me for my grandchildren driving the roads. That's the problem. It's entrenched and it's growing. A lot of big driver Inc. carriers. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of good ones. The freight broker we invested in has got a lot of good carriers. They might not pay their taxes the way I'd like to, but they're doing all the other things right. The problem with trucking today is very similar to the Canadian economy. There's no middle class. There's no middle class. There's good carriers that are using a Driver Inc. model, and there's more and more good carriers. They're getting bigger. They're getting stronger. The bottom feeders are getting worse. They're run-of-the-mill. They're getting worse. They can't be trusted. They don't obey the rules. They laugh at the rules. And frankly, they're making trucking an embarrassing place to work because they're in the front page of the news every day. That's next is growing underbelly. You've got desperate carriers doing desperate things. There's not a day that goes by that I'll pick up the paper and I get embarrassed by our industry. I am one proud trucker. I wear it along with the Canadian hockey tattoo on my leg. But it's getting embarrassing. And this is with the bottom feeders, because as I said, there's no middle class. Deteriorating safety. Like, I'm preacher converted, but I find interesting what Scott said about the drivers not being able to back up. When this really hit me and I realized how bad it was, I see the eye test on the road like you do. I see the lousy driving. You kind of get numb to it in Toronto, though, because it's just a gong show no matter where you go. But you see it. You see the duct tape holding up trucks. You don't need screws now. You see duct tape to fix trucks. But I got a call from my college roommate, and he said, Ace, do any of your old drivers looking for part-time work? I said, you're not buying trucks, are you? He goes, no, I need them to shunt. I said, what are you talking about? You don't even own trucks. Well, he said, the problem, Mike, is that the guys coming in to pick up my loads at the warehouse can't back the trailers in. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I can't tell you what I said. Like, you're kidding me, right? You're kidding me. So think about this. Because the driving carriers, freight brokers use them. That's how they exist. They don't have customers. They can't deal with customers directly, most of them. Some of the big guys can. They deal with brokers. So they dispatch a load to a broker. Broker gives it to his carrier. So the carrier gives it to it's probably not Joe, but I'll use the name Joe. Joe, go pick this load up. Then after you pick the load up, drive 2,800 miles to California. Rain, mountains, construction, tight lanes, construction. Like, that's a nuclear missile. Nuclear missile. But he can't back the trailer in. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Enforcement, like it's just non-existent. I know I've had many conversations with Mike McCarron about this. Like it's a joke. And I can only really speak for Ontario because everything is Ontario-centric. I know it's different, but what blew me away when I was working with one of the schools there is that the schools are governed by the private colleges. 6,000 courses. How to cut hair, how to flip hamburgers, how to do anything. There's 8 instructors. So what's their day go? So they're going to go to Mary's hair salon to make sure she's following the instructions. Then they're going to Joe's Auto Body. Then they're going to trucking company. They don't know anything about trucking. It's a joke. It's a paper chase. They don't give a shit. It's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's called enforcement. My understanding is the rules are there, and they're pretty good rules. I think it's ridiculous that you only need 32 hours behind the wheel to drive a truck, but the point is the rules are useless unless they're being enforced. It's kind of like modern-day prohibition. And I think last is there's still a lot of hypocrisy. And I fight with Laskowski about this all the time. And I'm talking about the legacy carriers, the big boys. The big boys that are going to the public about our hospitals aren't being funded because carriers aren't paying their taxes. I agree with that. We can't fund safety programs that are not paying their taxes. But guess who the driver and carriers' biggest customers are? Those same carriers' broker divisions. So let me get this straight. And I've talked to politicians in Ottawa about this. I remember going to Ottawa. The Energy Minister, Tim Hodgson, is a great friend of mine. And we were in Ottawa last year before he was an MP. So imagine Ottawa saying, so this driver inc stuff that you're trying to shut down, you created it. The same carriers that are trying to shut it down created it. It's pretty hard to get people's attention when you're hypocrites. And you know the other thing that got happening too, and we see this in our M&A business all the time. Do you know how many of these guys have a driver inc component to their fleet? Don't tell anyone, Mike. Don't tell Mark Seymour that I got driver inc carriers. Like, don't tell him, man. Or I'll get singled out the next meeting. They're actually, the associations have gotten this far, and I just think it's, once again, I like these guys. They're friends of mine. I was a big in the associations. So they're saying to become a board member now of these associations. I don't know if this is the same in Saskatchewan or Alberta, but Ontario. We're going to do a driver inc audit. So if any trucks driver inc, you know, I said, you're having no board members. Because every single, unless they're really stupid and don't have a freight brokerage business, every single one of your carriers is supporting driver inc. And they're trying to shut it down. This is a real ironic thing from an M&A standpoint. If you're a $10 million carrier, sorry, a $20 million carrier, or you're a $10 million carrier with a $10 million brokerage, the carrier that's got the brokerage business will be worth 2 or 3 times multiplier more because non-asset pays more than asset. So they're actually trying to shut down something.
Wasn't that a good interview with a good presentation from Mr. Mike McCarron? Hope you learned a lot there for sure. That's something to do. Hey, if you're like the rest of us and you want to get help with your taxes, I don't know why I'm laughing when I say taxes. I think it's just because we'll just leave that alone. Anyway, RS2000 Tax Services can help you. They specialize in trucking and farming, and if you want to keep more money in your pocket, or at least attempt to, then RS2000 Tax is who you should use. We use them ourselves, so we know they're good. They're cost effective, and they give you the right information. So check out rs2000tax.com and let them know that we sent you. All right, my friends, hope you enjoyed that. Check more out about PTAC at ptac.ca. That's PTTAC.ca. We've got a lot of content from them this month because we're at their Toronto event that they held, but then we're at their first annual conference out in Calgary. So lots of stuff on diversity and training happening over these next little while. Something that we all need to look out for. And if you're a driver, you want to pay attention to PTAC because they're going to be changing the way that training is done in the future and how you're going to get certificates, Red Seal, all that kind of stuff. If you're someone new looking at this industry, then training is about to change for you, my friends. You better get ready. All right, here we go. So enjoy, and we will talk to you later.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.